To order the Traffic Safety Bikeways Pedestrians Committee for Thursday, February 16th at 6 p.m. Right on time. Second is the approval of minutes for January 2023. Do we have any discussion?
I did see one thing I thought to fix.
What do you have, Michael?
You wrote, Debbie, that tax credit was for Keizer and it would be for all of Oregon for the e-bikes.
And what should it be?
It should be for all of Oregon.
Oh, it should be for all of Oregon?
Not just for
All
the
right.
city, but for the whole.
Thank you. So with that exception, do I have
I have a motion that as amended, that the minutes of January 19th, 2023 be approved as written.
Second.
All right, thank you. All right, so the next is the appearance of...
We have to vote. We have to vote.
Oh, we have to vote. Can I have the vote from the committee?
All in favor.
All in favor.
Aye.
Say aye. Any opposed? All right, motion or minutes passed. We have appearance of interested citizens coming up next, and I do want to ask if it's okay with the citizens if I put one person that came in first. Because he needs to leave if there's any objection. Okay, Mike Jaffe, if you could go ahead and be first for us, thanks.
Need to push a button here?
There you go.
Good evening. I'm Mike Jaffe. I'm the Transportation Planning Director with the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments, and also run SCATS, with the Salem-Keizer Area Transportation Study, which I know a few of you are quite familiar with, and maybe others aren't. We're the Metropolitan Planning Organization here in Salem-Keizer that run a number of programs, including grants to build projects like Keizer's Roundabout or sidewalks in Chamawa Road in the past. And we also run a Safe Route to School program. But the reason I came tonight is because for the last year or so, we've been planning something called a Metropolitan Safety Action Plan. Some of you might be familiar with the state has a Transportation Safety Action Plan at the state level. And a number of jurisdictions or organizations have at the local level, like an MPO, like us, Metropolitan Planning Organizations, or even a county, sometimes develop a local safety action plan. So this is about a year-long process. We're just kind of getting started, and now we've been working up to it. And it's going to be a number of things, and I wanted to come and just give you a little brief about it. It's going to be a combination of studying crash information we get from ODOT, so we have years and years and years of crash data. But it's also community outreach. So we're going to do a big push to get notice of this plan. And we're going to have an open house in March. And we'll be using social media. We'll be using email and postcards and other things to get the word out. We want the public to tell us their views on transportation safety. Because although we have the data, the crash data, that tells us one side of the story, but it doesn't tell us for things like, I'd like to cross the street, whatever that is, but I feel it's too busy, the traffic's too fast, I don't feel it's safe. And while there's no crashes maybe there, it's something else to take into account as far as what are people's perceptions of safety. Maybe other perceptions are people are distracted while driving, or driving certain locations that are, certain streets that are too fast. So we want to get people's inputs on some broad topics, also very specific locations they would like us to look at. It's basically a big community push to kind of, open this conversation up and develop a plan that comes up with policies, strategies, maybe some new ideas to address the problem. In our Salem-Keizer area, we have over 3,700 crashes every year, and over 3,000 injuries from those crashes. Over 100 serious injuries, life-threatening injuries, and unfortunately 18 to 20 plus deaths every year from fatalities from crashes. So obviously it's a very serious issue, and we we want to tackle it. We've been collecting this data for quite a long time, but we felt we would try to do a safety action plan and see if we can address the problem in new ways, and maybe some old ways too, building infrastructure. But-
So you said March, you are going
So,
to have
so the open house will be open March 13th.
March 13th?
It'll
okay.
go to April, I think it'll be 3 weeks, so I think April 6th.
Okay,
And we'll send this committee some information about it so you could know about it and spread it out to any media partners or other people, even, maybe in your website. I know I talked to Sergeant Leday today and Salem Police, and they're going to help us spread information about the open house and other media, social media outlets. So just wanted to let you know that that's happening. We'll be talking to local police forces, Salem Police, Keizer, Marion County Sheriffs. And that's all I really wanted to say, just kind of let you know about that's coming, and see if you have any questions before you move on to your next person.
Does anybody on the committee have any questions? Okay, Rick, go ahead.
Sounds like this is a 3-week open comment period. Is there actually going to be an in-person open house of any kind?
Not at this point, no.
Sure.
Yeah.
Did anybody from the committee want to follow this and help out with this? Okay, so we do get the emails that come, that Debbie does send to us whenever she has anything. So if I get my eyes on it, I'll definitely ping both of you to make sure it gets in front of your eyes. Michael, you had something?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. What is the boundary? Is it just the city limits of Salem and Keizer?
No, it's going to be the urban area.
Okay. And will it include like the parkway as well, or just city streets?
People can comment about anything,
Okay.
any roadway, yeah.
Okay, and is the final goal to just note these things, or will there be like physical projects that happen from this?
That's a good question. So we will be collecting all this information and try to come up with focus areas, what things we want to focus on as far as safety initiatives, similar to what the state does. But on top of that, we're going to look at high crash locations, and our consultant, DKS, is going to come up with some recommended options for those locations.
Does this include, is it the TSP or TIP?
TSP.
TSP from ODOT at all? Like, are you going to gather that data? The reason I ask is the city of Keizer, the last time this was done was in 2009, and we still have a lot of outstanding items that haven't been addressed. We have tried once in 2022 to have a grant written, and it didn't go well, so, or it didn't get approved, I should say. So could we bring our short list? Because we have our concerned citizens list that we have developed in 2022 that we're going to continue monitoring, but we also have the transportation spreadsheet from 2009 that still has items that we have not been able to address financially.
Well, it's not a TSP update. This is really a focus on the safety issues. So we want the data to come from either the data on crashes, or if there are certain locations where, like I said, there's no crashes, but people seem to have said, this is a location we want you to study beyond the crash data. We think it's important. So if you have a location like that, we could certainly consider it. I don't know exactly how we're going to choose the 10 locations, but.
Sergeant Leday, do you have like, since you're working with them too, is there going to be like a short list that you have of areas of concern?
I mean, everything that we do is data-driven.
Right.
So we can, certainly present areas that have our highest crash ratios. That being said, we'll let as far as the primary causes of those crashes, we may have 3 crashes in a specific area that the primary cause is DUI on all 3 of them, and not specifically something that engineering wise, if we can make a difference, how.
Gotcha.
So those are things that we had actually talked about as far as
Okay.
letting the data plus the causation actually show us a little bigger picture than just the
Exactly.
location within itself.
Yeah.
So is the focus more on engineering solutions? I mean, what if it turned out you had all this information is because people are using their cell phones and driving through signals? Would an option be some way of correcting that behavior? Would you look at those sorts of things?
You know, at this time, I just don't know. I mean,
Okay.
this process will kind of help us define that. So we want to look at a number of options, but I don't have solutions yet.
Everything's up in the air.
All right.
Yes.
Tammy, did you have a comment?
Did I hear you say there's 10 locations that you'll narrow it down to?
That's part of the study. As I mentioned, there's going to be some strategies that might be area-wide, you know, maybe more educational programs, or maybe things to help with speeding, for example. Might be the whole region, for example. But we're also going to look at some specific hotspot locations where there's a prevalence of crashes, and those hotspot of crashes, plus, like I said earlier, if there are locations people say, hey, why don't we do a safety fix here because, you know, people speed too much. There's no crashes, but there's a lot of speeding. Or, like I said earlier, a very busy high-speed road and I can't seem to cross it, you know, Salem Parkways, for example, an example like that.
All right.
So,
So I'm still lost on where the funding is coming from.
oh, I didn't mention the
Study.
funding. I didn't mention the funding. So it's being funded by the MPO, my organization.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys would get the federal grants and monitor that? Is that how that works?
Well, it's part of our planning money that we get every year, and
Oh,
we're using our
okay,
planning
okay.
money to do
You're-
this work, yeah.
So you're looking at where you're going to allocate the funds?
Well, that's another part of what we do at the MPO is
Okay.
allocate our federal funds. But that is based on a number of considerations, not just safety, but safety is often an important one.
Okay. So, and are you bringing this to the counties at all? To Marion, at least? Marion County?
Marion County is part of our project management team
Okay.
as part of this, so, yeah.
Out of curiosity, is the freeway in the city anywhere?
Well, it's in the boundaries of the
It's
city.
within, I know that, but I mean, is it considered, it goes by Keizer, is it part of Keizer's statistics? I don't think you'd,
We don't have, it's
Yeah.
not part of
Yeah.
our jurisdiction.
so
That's
nobody,
state.
and Salem wouldn't either.
Well, we would have the crash data from ODOT, if
Yeah.
any
You could get it
crashes on
from-
Interstate 5 or 22.
Yeah.
So we have that crash information.
Are you working with the Salem Traffic Safety Committee as well?
Not yet,
Okay.
yeah.
That's all the questions I have. How about for the committee? Okay, thank you so much, Mike,
Okay.
for coming and bringing that information. We definitely want to be involved.
Okay, thanks for fitting me in. Good night.
Yeah, thank you.
Mike, I will be contacting the Safe Routes person. Thank you.
Okay, so next citizen is Jenna Berman, ODOT. Or wait, I think you, weren't you,
I'm
yeah,
kind of a presenter.
yeah, you
so-
got your own line. Hold, I'm going to skip.
Kind of, I am,
All right, so the next I have is Rhonda Rich. please.
yeah. So,
I'll get you next.
yeah.
It's like that name was familiar.
Good evening. My name's Rhonda Rich, and I'm president of the West Keizer Neighborhood Association. It's elected again in January, yay.
Congratulations.
And so I'm here to tell you tonight that I also have Chris Adams here, she's the vice president. Carolyn Holman is the secretary. Art Maurer, Rob Witters, Carol Phipps, and Gary Blake also fill out the board. And so at our February board meeting, I asked the board members who would be interested in going to these different meetings, the Traffic Bikeways and Planning Commission and Parks Board. And Rob Witters will be your contact person, the main person who will be coming to the meetings. And then Carolyn and Art are also, it's not officially a committee, but we may rotate around on who comes to the meetings, and then they report back to the board. And if we feel there's something we need to kind of get out to the general membership, we do that at our next meetings. And you guys are always welcome to come to our So So we did get the flashing signs on Shoreline.
Yes.
Yay. And Carol Dorfler is here tonight, and she's the reason we have those. Why we came forward to you in February is when we started our traffic blitz, and she was president the year before in 2021, where we decided that that's what we were going to do as a neighborhood association, kind of send out pass out door hangers to about 300 citizens on major streets. And then in January, bring them together and get some feedback as to where people saw problems. And then Chief Teague came to our meeting in February, and that's where we came up with those two issues, the flashing lights on Shoreline and the speed table. And so I've been in contact some with Tammy and I think Mike, this last year, we've been kind of bouncing around this neighborhood traffic management plan, trying to see how it can be more user-friendly.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know that we went through all the bullet points on the plan. As we went through this, I think it was a little different than what the plan actually laid out. But I had some suggestions, and I was going to ask Rob to kind of compile those with Carolyn and Art and any of the other board members to kind of give back to you some points, because I know you're still working on it.
Yeah.
And you said the next committee meeting, you'd probably
Yeah.
bring some draft forward. And so just real quick, I wanted to mention a few bullet points that I found going through the plan. On the petition, I'm glad to see that there's a neighborhood association, and then a petition can be made by any citizen on a street. The question is whether that would have to be a citizen on that street that there's a petition for. Because, for example, down on the corner of Raffel and Shoreline, there was a group home there, and people were parking at the edge of the corner. And so if you went south on Shoreline off of Raffel, you couldn't see the traffic. So we just brought that forward, I think, to Public Works, and we didn't. There was a citizen who lived farther north in the neighborhood, and he got a petition signed by about 40 people, and that was done. And he didn't live on that street, so
We didn't
it's,
see that.
it's
We didn't
just-
see that, so,
No, this was like 4 or 5 years ago.
oh, okay.
So, yeah, so I've been, involved for a number of years. So these are kind of things I've seen, like over at Holiday Swim Club too. There's people were parking near the corners of the streets, and there's a lot of kids cross that street in the summertime. So we asked if there could be some paintings on the curbs. And so I don't know whether those things, come into play in this neighborhood management plan that you're working on, but just kind of things that we've been working on. And then those Delight Street with putting the pathway along Cummings inside the fence, and then widening Delight up towards McNary. That wasn't through the neighborhood traffic management plan, but that took about 6 years, and Carol was president during that time, going through safe routes to school, and that was a very lengthy process. And it's a safety issue now. Now that's taken care of. There's a sidewalk too. Bill actually connected the pathway going up to Delight to Dearborn. There was a sidewalk needed to be installed too, so he did that. So Bill was great to work with. But those are the main issues I can think of that we have worked through over the years that you might want to think about. Just a suggestion in going through this plan too, that I don't know if you're going to assign, I know each of you kind of have neighborhoods that you're associated with or liaisons of, that this would have been very difficult to go through without having somebody from either your committee or Public Works to help fill out. So we just identified a problem and then had a solution.
Yeah, Rhonda,
So-
I think that's what we've been figuring out, is that there's a lot of just loopholes, because as you've stated, you can go directly to Public Works and bill lawyer, but sometimes they surpass us. I guess while I've been chair, what I've really been trying to do is hear the citizens and help direct them to their association, because power in the numbers, right? So that's kind of how I've been trying to move everything so that it stays in more than just one person's hands, and then we can continue to follow it to see where we're going to get it corrected or what the timeline may be. But we have found also, after you give us the petition, what happens next? That's kind of what the subcommittee has really been diving into, and making sure that where we can put fail-safes, I guess, of keeping ourselves in the loop. Because if somebody writes a petition and sends it in and we're not aware, maybe I just need to ask Bill Lawyer to loop us in on any of those, and we'll get Mike Griffin involved to get that information for us and bring it to the committee as a report when he gives his line.
Right. And also going in the other direction, because we come to each one of your meetings, there hasn't been anything to find out where we're at in this process.
We agree.
So, there needs to be some kind of written response back to the neighborhood or to the individual.
According to the document I just saw today, I caught it at the end, postcards are supposed to be going out. So we're
Yeah.
going to address that. So that's a loophole, absolutely, that we're going to close.
Uh-huh.
So as much as
Okay.
we thought we would probably be finished putting this together to send to the lawyers for City of Keizer, we might be more like 2 months off with this. But that just, what happens is now we've kind of, in some ways, missed this year's budget. And what we need to do is ask, we will be asking Bill Lawyer what his plan for this year's budget looks like, so that we can even see if those line items are on there. If you look at the budget online, it's very vague. So in order for us to get more details, I believe I need to sit down with Bill Lawyer and get more on a good communication page with him of where his plans are for the city are going.
Okay, and I just want to say, kind of a big missing piece on this too was you mentioned the 3 E's. And if we didn't have enforcement Chief Tig at our back, this would have been a lot more difficult. I mean,
I agree.
he was involved with this, and I'd like to see more of the, he said, a police officers can sit there at John Knox Presbyterian Church and see the cars whiz by, but it's not a perception either. It's a fact that they're speeding on Cummings. But more of that input from the police department too, maybe police reports, because we really just had a study done that said, okay, well, it's really not a speeding problem. And we have the perception, as Mike Jaffe said, that was speeding on Shoreline. And, Carol Dorfler is going to talk to this. But the traffic has slowed down. I know it slows me down to go down there, and at 30 it starts, slow down. And I think Mike brought this up at one time to our board, that he would like to see more of those flashing. I think they're very effective, those flashing signs, to put on some other streets like Sunset, to just say, hey, slow down, and you've got the speed right in front of you, so.
Again,
But-
we did have like 5 areas that we wanted the flashing lights. Maybe I just need to ask the question of, was this a tester before the city goes and spends more money and puts them in other areas that, because what I'm recalling is the flashing light that actually had the solar thing on it and it got stolen. So, does the city has to think about those things too, as far as putting that money out. So I do think that would be the questions I need to ask now and bring back to our March meeting. So, now held for 2 things, and that is the Southeast Sanka.
Keizer Association.
Yeah,
Okay.
their association. I have something out for them, and I do believe that maybe if me and the chair can go and sit with Bill Lawyer between now and March and just see if he can give us a draft budget of what his ideas of the areas of concern to address.
Okay, and we hope to, before summer, maybe to do some canvassing of shoreline and give you some feedback of people who live on shoreline as to what they see happening, you know, do they think the
written-
traffic is slowing down? It's so subjective, but still, it's
But this is the thing, Rhonda, if you can get them to even email you and send that in, the more I can say I have 10 concerned neighbors, I can get maybe that area addressed more. It's the squeaky wheel, what is it called? Something
Okay.
like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. Michael, did you have something to say?
I just had a question, and this is more for Sergeant Lede. Are we doing a pre and post speed survey on where the flashing signs been put in?
On shoreline, we haven't done anything yet on, as far as the, we've done so many different studies to areas, I'm not sure, I think shoreline was one that we had done. Go back on the records, that we can do a post after a period of time, certainly to see if that's changed.
Yeah, because it's only been 2 months, yeah. Okay.
And you said that you would be submitting like an email with,
Yes, yeah, I just did some bullets this afternoon, but I was wanting Carolyn and Rob and Art to weigh in on it too, and we'll send you a document within the next week,
perfect.
so
I
you
look
can
forward to it.
incorporate that.
Yeah, whatever we can do to incorporate that into the NTMT, it'll help us.
It'll just be suggestions,
Get it to the
comments,
city.
you know, it's just.
Well, you went through it, so we need to understand what you experienced.
Yeah, okay. One last thing, I did talk to Principal Kronsner and mentioned that we talked to Sergeant Lede about the exiting out of the parking lot onto Rivercrest and whether we could stripe that curb. And you had mentioned they could put cones out, and he was glad to hear that. He said he has a great relationship with you, the police department, but he probably won't start that till beginning of next year. He doesn't want to throw something at the parents in the middle of the year. Yeah, but he thought that would be doable, so he may be in touch with you, so.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next is Tammy Kuhn? No, that was Rhonda.
Oh, that was right.
Yeah, this one is on our list. She's going to talk herself. Yeah, just got these two left. And I already know what he wants to talk about.
Hi, I'm Jackie Green. I'm Vice Principal in Greater Northeast Keizer Neighborhood Association. Greater Northeast Neighborhood Association. A neighborhood association is a section of city with a common identity. Neighborhood association offers a place to meet friends, exchange information, create project priorities and purpose solution, have fun. A neighborhood association is formed based on the needs and desires of its residents. The association will give residents a forum to discuss common concerns and to brainstorm problems. Some potential outcomes may be improved street lightings, bike paths, sidewalks, traffic calming device, park and open spaces, zoning and land use planning, park and amenities, beautification projects, and neighborhood cleanups. Many neighborhood associations have summer picnics, holiday parties, and other special events in order to have fun as well as to keep the lines of communications open with their neighborhood. The items we have heard from our communities are as follows: value and focus, community trust, livability, equity and inclusion, human and social needs, intervention, vibrant and distinct neighborhoods, sustainability and resilience, culture and heritage, safe and prepared community, connected and resilient infrastructure. Other items we have covered over the last few weeks are as follows: our goals for creating this group and communication support within the community and looking for folks to be involved in support of the community. Cover open positions by looking at the bylaws and job descriptions, as we have been working on updating these and are working on placing it in English and Spanish to meet the needs of those we serve. And I have attended a number of meetings and trainings to share information, which is being done nicely on on the online community seems to be really taking it in and sharing this information in the areas they live. One of the concerns we are working on is the rent increases that some have been increased. 14.6% increases for families who are already struggling. I have been working on my involvement in the state level on bills that impact those areas. For example, Senate Bill 608 allows the highest increase for rental agents and property owners, which we're at 9.9. This is having a huge impact on our community. And then people are concerned about the roundabout yet at the corner of Shamawa and Berta.
Okay, so that was a lot.
Yes.
Okay, my first question is, do you possibly maybe could email that to us so that we can maybe absorb
Yes.
that data a little bit more?
Yes, I could.
And this is the East Neighborhood Association?
Keizer Northeast,
Keizer
Greater
Northeast.
Northeast Keizer Neighborhood Association.
Northeast. Okay, thank you. I didn't get north on there. So your main, you're bringing light to the roundabout is what I hear,
Yes.
one of them. And that, we have had a couple people say some stuff on that. What is it that you're getting feedback from?
The walking,
Mhm.
the people can't cross safe there.
walking. Okay, okay. Do you, it's the same of what we've been hearing on that.
And safe route to school is, the sidewalks are really rough on Keizer Road,
On Keizer Road, where?
where Kennedy Elementary is.
Towards the baseball fields. So past
Over-
the church.
Yeah.
So the roundabout, and then I'm confused.
The roundabout itself is, you could cross it, but getting to it, especially down Keizer Road, down to Kennedy, that was one of our early projects that we were hoping to get some money in Safe Routes to School.
Am I right that this is the one that was stopped because of the condos that are building there?
No, that's on the other side.
Okay.
Across the street.
It's across the street.
So it's going onto the other side. So
Other side.
help me out.
And Shamawa.
However, the condos with the new development and the sidewalks there might improve some aspect of things. But Keizer Road itself, especially on the church side,
Okay,
is
It's turned
difficult, and that's been identified.
okay.
Fact is, we did a walk around 3 years ago. Well, it was pre-COVID, and documented all that, and Bill was with us, so it's on the docket, that's for sure. We kind of lost the principal that was there at Kennedy that was quite a champion for that.
Miranda, she's amazing too.
Well,
Okay.
She's a new principal.
So, I agree. Now that he pointed out what street Keizer was.
Okay.
Keizer Road.
Yeah, but I do understand what you're saying there. I do pass it daily, and everybody is quickly trying to make that left, the left as I'm going straight, so that they don't back up the roundabout and all that. That is a very big concern, because it only takes 3 cars, and then now you're in the roundabout. So I don't know what to do there. I have no suggestions right now, besides for adding this to the list and asking Bill Lawyer to take a look at it again and see if there are any suggestions. I do agree that the roundabout is getting a little bit more unsafe.
Yes.
More unsafe.
Well, getting to it, it's
The amount of
roundabout
traffic.
itself is safer than any four-way stop, but getting to it from walking in, it's
Slowing down.
Yeah, the streets, and then with the construction, it's
getting worse.
It's kind of messy there. But in theory, and hold it, I said in theory, once the construction is finished and we can get some sidewalks on Verda, there'll be some improvement, plus it'll also, I think, will open our eyes on where we can actually make improvements.
I agree with that.
Because we'll start seeing where cars are going to be coming out of the apartments for sure.
And then that's going to add more traffic on Verda and the kids crossing there with, going to Kennedy Elementary, that's gonna be, we're afraid for them too.
I wish Mike was still here. The next big project is Berta.
Dearborn, the intersection with Berta and Dearborn
Yeah,
is
getting difficult.
well known.
Vert and Chamawa,
That also.
Yeah.
that's the
That
one
whole
we're
little
concerned more
area
about.
is of a concern. I will say that the concerns that we have brought up because of that construction have been asked to be put on hold to see what the walkway looks like. But this is a little bit more. This is all of the intersections that are kind of there for the children. So, Michael, did you have something?
I was just going to add one thing that I know, so Chamawa for sure going towards the Parkway is, or to Keizer Station, that's 35 there, I believe. Verda's 35.
This would probably be a good one for us to pick for asking it to go lower, a personal, or a city request.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll bring that up. It was Jackie, right?
Jacqueline.
I appreciate you coming and bringing this to our attention. Again, it's power in coming back, voicing your concern, and pushing us to keep it getting to the top of the list. Any letters that maybe any of the concerned citizens can write, those can be sent in. We do read those out loud. And as I said, if I had several of those, that will help us say, there's area concern of here. And now it can go to the next step, which is the NTM, and asking for a more in-depth review of it, which costs the city money to have an engineer come out and give more details of what possible outcomes could make it safe. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll try to get you some letters.
Okay. And the email that you're going to send it to will be to Debbie.
Okay.
Do you have her?
We have Debbie's
Awesome.
email.
So if you can go ahead and get that over to her. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Tammy.
Okay. Next I have Ken. I'm not going to pronounce. Gearloff. Gearloff.
You got it.
Oh, you're about to become my best friend, so come on up here.
Well, now everybody knows I'm Ken Gerloff
Gearloff, yes.
from the Southeast Keizer Neighborhood Association. Anyway, I'm here to be the greasy wheel,
Please do.
follow up, keep it in the forefront, see what's being done or not being done, how we can help move this along.
Okay, so just to get everybody on track of where we're at, he asked, and I had committed to talking to the principals of Weddell and Claggett to see if we can get some help with the crossings during the busy times for the city, or for the children. I will be doing that before the March meeting, promise. And then the second piece was, okay, now I'm forgetting what the second piece was. Was it the, because I know we had, because there's two crossings. There's the one where it's Alder and Brooks.
Pleasant View.
But you also were explaining the one closer to the school as well, too. So
Right.
those are our two areas that we really have of concern. And we
Well,
want.
and at the top at Berta too, there's crosswalk up there too.
So you're not seeing any more, because they used to have a cross.
We
guard
haven't
there.
heard, and I've not been in that area. I avoid the school during school hours, so I haven't been up and seen it, whether there was a guard up there or not. There used to be.
Last
Is
year
there?
there was,
Okay.
I'm not sure about this year. So we have, okay, so there's 3 areas of concern that we want to bring up to the two schools to see if they have any volunteers that
Well,
can help.
there's a third one too, because if any one of those, although the one at, the crossing guard at, you're talking about the freeway stop there at
Verda?
Alder and
Alder and Brooks?
Pleasant View there.
Oh, Pleasant, okay.
He had surgery last year and he was off for 2 weeks. Well, they had a teacher there some days. And the other days, the kids were at their own peril. So, I mean, they don't even have a backup plan in case somebody's sick or has, some kind of injury where they can't, perform. So, I mean, it goes beyond just, having 3 guards. What's their backup plan when someone
A
falls
car
out of the
falls
plan?
out, yeah.
Because it can't, just
Yeah,
good luck, kids, it's not the day. I don't think that's a solution we're looking for.
And we also had mentioned that you do not have a school liaison going to your meetings, right?
No, the gal that used to do it changed schools
Okay,
or changed jobs entirely.
all right. Start off with an email. I'll get that done this week, and I'll copy you in, Ken, so that you can be involved and definitely hold me accountable, okay?
Another question is there any plans to have any traffic studies done? I mean, that's going to be part of the evidentiary stuff to try and, get it
Yeah.
into the budget stuff. Is there any plans for traffic studies or anything like that going forward?
At this point, I just felt like that we got pushback for asking about that stop sign area for Alder and Brooks. And I do think that we're going to have to ramp up and get the citizens involved to actually petition so that we can actually go to the next step and have them do the review. I would like to also follow up with Mike Griffin from Public Works to see if he's had any other conversations with Bill Lawyer. I think talking with Bill Lawyer myself will also get that information for us.
Well, I understand we started with Bill before we came here.
And where was that at? I mean,
We had just discussion. He said we need to come here and, go through the process.
okay.
So that's how we got.
So it seems like he's on board to getting the right process, so that makes me happy.
He's aware of the problem, and
Okay.
we've had that conversation.
Okay, so when I go and talk, that's my second follow-up. I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Sergeant Leday.
Ken, I might be able to address some of that.
Okay.
As far as like the traffic study, I think it was our last meeting when we talked about it was about 3 or 4 months ago. Had all the intent in the world to go up and do the traffic study, but I sent my motors up there first to check out the area. I think it's very obvious there is a speeding problem out there. We've been doing a lot of enforcement out there over the last few months.
Appreciate it.
If you live out there, I don't know how you could have missed my motors. There's been several citations written out there. Also a lot of warnings. It is a problem area. I don't need a traffic study to get that information right now. I mean,
Okay.
having my motors out there and give me the feedback clearly says we have some issues that we have to try and get it under control. I mean, a study's not going to do us anything at this point until we can balance that out. It is a 25-mile-an-hour posted speed limit. We'll continue to go out there and enforce it. Once we don't have as much activity, at that point, I think then we can break up a time where we can do a pre and post study to see if things are picking back up or not.
Okay.
I know the talk was to put in some type of speed table at that intersection. Knowing the issue we have right now, I mean, all we would be doing is giving them a ramp, so to say. And I don't think that's certainly the safety aspect that we want to even look at this
That has already been
point.
discouraged, Sergeant
Probably
Leday.
get pushback from the power department too. I mean, I know there's an issue with slowing them down at all.
Absolutely, there's pros and cons to every type of slowing device that we have out there. My word to you right now is I'll keep my guys active out there.
Much appreciated.
And we will absolutely continue to do our best. And yes, we do have a speeding problem out there. There is no denying that.
Well, you can't even read the speed signs right now. They're all tagged over. Apparently, we're making some progress in that department too. We had some neighbors put up some cameras and got some pictures of our taggers. So hopefully that'll come to some fruition here in that problem.
So the accountability part on that there, make sure you hold me accountable, but I don't think that'll be necessary.
I don't think I won't. We've known each other too long.
Okay, Hirsch had a comment.
I just needed to ask Ken some questions. Last night at our meeting, Ben Crosby was there. That's our code compliance, and he did talk about tagging in our city and talked about your area and the progress that they're making and working with some people. So it was kind of encouraging for our neighborhood because we have a little bit, but not as much as you guys do. And he did confirm what you and I had talked about is that with the monies that we get from the city for our neighborhood, we can do a tagging kit.
Yes.
And all we have to do is let them know what's going on. So I just wanted to.
Also, the police department has a tag kit, and they also have somebody that has a spray machine, a portable spray machine, apparently, that's available. I talked to a lieutenant.
Yeah, we were teasing about our fence needs to be painted. So we
Go out, tag it, and get them to come out and paint it for you.
But
Looking for a free paint job, are you?
That was a very nice idea, but I just wanted to thank you for mentioning that the other day to us.
It was also approved by our finance officer, too. He said he would, in fact, he's going to look into getting a kit for us, put it together for us, and so we have it.
So thank you very much.
All right.
Yeah. Ken, thank you so much for keeping up on us, and I hope I have some good details to report back to you in March.
We do, too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before I close this out, that's the last of any citizens. Is there any others? Oh, okay.
Nice to see you.
Hi, Carol Dorfler. I do live on the corner shoreline in Raffel. I had some serious health issues last year that kept me kind of homebound. And all of a sudden in the fall, when I was getting better, I suddenly noticed that the traffic was slower. And I thought, no. And then I started paying attention and the traffic was slower. It indeed did make a difference. I did not know the signs were up. I was not driving at the time. And I did not drive until the end of December. And I happened to have to turn and go north on Shoreline. And I went, holy moly, that's why things have slowed down. There was the traffic thing. So I thank you for whatever help you had in getting that done. And I'm sure the neighbors appreciate it also. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming up and giving us good news. We love to hear that.
It's nice seeing you, Carol.
Yeah. Michael, you had
I
something?
just had a quick question for Carl or Rhonda. One of the concerns when we were first talking about it was that the blinking lights might be a problem. Have you noticed? Has anyone complained that the blinking lights are a problem?
No, I haven't heard anything. I think they're directed correctly, because I had looked at them. I was concerned about that too, but I haven't heard anything.
Okay. I'm just going to bring up one thing to Sergeant Lede from Tammy's comments, or Jackie's comments on the roundabout. Do you have any suggestions, or can that be kind of watched a little bit more during the, I mean, I see cops in there all the time, even this morning, one going when I was going and when I was coming back home. So that's a 30-minute period of time, and definitely it was monitored. So I do want to put that out there. But
No, I was still a little confused as far as the exact issue. I mean, pre-work, we have guys that go jogging and things like that too, in those areas. And I've never heard of an issue in the roundabout for crossing. So I was confused if she was talking about the church side getting to the area or the intersection to crossing,
I think
like
it's-
from Kennedy.
Okay, so
They're saying
yes, for that, from today's comments.
Yeah, and that would get into our public works and just getting that side of the roadway developed. I think the apartment complex is coming in, they'll have that entire area with sidewalks being developed, so maybe crossing on one side at, from Dearborn and then all the way over to the roundabout will make crossing much safer staying on that side of the road, but it still doesn't fix
The other
east side.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you for that comment. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next, and Jenna Berman ODOT is next.
I have so many things. I have so many ideas already as a result of listening to you guys. It's always super valuable, not to mention it's wonderful to be in a room with human beings again, so thanks for that. Thanks, Debbie. So hi, I've been meaning to visit with you guys for a long time. I'm at ODOT. My role is, it's a long name, Active Transportation Liaison, and that's a fancy way of saying all things bicycle and pedestrian.
Okay.
Yeah, so active transportation, the new term, right? Because we've got all these other things now, scooters and skateboards and hoverboard things and.
Electronics. Are coming
Yeah, all
in,
kinds of stuff. So it kind of fits all that stuff in there. And I've been at ODOT. It's pretty unique. It's pretty cool that our DOT has these positions. Not everyone does. And I've been there, I'm the first person to be in it, so I feel like I'm still figuring some things out. But it's been about 6 years, just over. And I cover Region 2 for ODOT. There's 5 regions. And so that region that I cover is the Willamette Valley. And then it goes up the coast to Astoria. So it's like half of the coast, so that's interesting. And then it kind of comes into the valley and goes all the way down to Eugene and over to Oak Ridge. It's this big fat L.
Okay.
Usually I have a PowerPoint, but I decided not to do that tonight. So I'll just use, you get it. And so there's about 100 communities, which is a lot. So it's in some ways it's the most complex. The Portland area has its own complexities, but our region has the most communities and this combination of urban and rural that's just really interesting. And so what I do there it's like a lot of different things. My background's in safe routes to school, so it was really wonderful to hear a lot of community members coming with concerns and awareness around kids crossing the streets and things like that. I used to teach. I met Hirsch pretty early on in my days here. I used to teach and do the helmets and go into PE classes and teach kids about biking safety and stuff like that.
Awesome.
So I did that and advocacy work in Colorado for 8 years at Bicycle, Colorado. But I was ready to come home to Oregon, so I came back here. And so that's my background. So I have a lot of education and background. But I really got passionate in that time about the infrastructure because it just kind of felt like no matter how much we'd encourage the kids and get them excited or talk to their parents about the great value in the kids being active in the morning and the evening, if the infrastructure sucked and was scary,
Nobody wanted
they
to
weren't going to
tackle
use it, right? And so now I'm entrenched in this engineering side of it, the engineering E rather than the education E. But I wanted you to know that I have that background. And so what I'm doing at ODOT is kind of a lot of different things. What I'm finding that a lot of my job is actually turning out to be is supporting a lot of communities that are looking for grants to fund infrastructure. Mm-hmm. And so I work a lot with communities on their Safe Routes to School grants. I work more closely with them if it's involving the state highway system. Just so you guys know, for the Safe Routes construction grants, you can apply for grants that touch the state system. ODOT is not applying for these grants. We took ourselves out so that all the money went to the local cities and jurisdictions. But you would have to collaborate with us, of course, if you were touching. So I'm working with Monmouth, Independence, all these towns where a highway runs through it. That's not as much your scenario. So I do a lot of that. Oregon Community Paths is another new active transportation funding program. So I'm going to back up a tiny bit and say I have like this huge list that, everyone helped me generate. But I hear you having so many of the similar challenges that I have, which is limited resources at the agency. And so you guys are hearing from the community, you're trying to bring about change. I do that all the time too. I hear from the stakeholders, the riders, the pedestrians, and then I go to the agency and try and bring about change and say, what can we do here? And then you run up against a lot of limitations. It's just the reality. So I know it's hard. All that's to say, I know it's hard. But that transportation system plan that you referred to earlier, you have a 2009 TSP, you tried to update, someone wrote a grant to try and update that. That's the place where you want to identify, you probably know this, but identify all the projects that you want funded. So if the city gets funding to do it, these folks all need to be contributing input to the online open house, so all the things that we do, right, to make sure that the crossing of Verda and Chimawa, whatever, is in there as a priority. Your bikeways are identified, your low-stress networks are identified. That's kind of wonky terminology, but you probably get the idea. So ultimately, that is the roadmap, pun was not intended, but there you go, for all the funding resources, right? So for you guys to be engaged, you to be engaged, building a list of contacts, so great. So when you get funding for that transportation system plan update, you want to capture all of this, right? And then you chip away at those projects with funding.
Yeah, I think
That funding's really competitive.
Yeah, it is, because we
Yeah.
have a 2009 TSP
Right.
that has nothing done on
Right.
it. I mean, maybe one or two things, but
Right.
it's discouraging to know that it's been almost 15 years.
Which is about what it was supposed to be. So if that helps feel less discouraging. It was supposed to be a 20-year plan.
But none
I-
of them are ticked off.
I get it. Yeah.
So-
Yeah. And so I should have done my homework and looked at your TSP before I came, because I bet you anything, if you got funding and you updated it, you would find that a lot of the same places would rise up. I mean, that's just the reality. I've been involved in a few TSP updates, and, things have changed out there, but like a lot of time, if the schools haven't moved, right?
Yeah.
So I just would encourage you to encourage the city to keep applying for that. But we also have some other funding that updates TSPs. So I can also put in a plug for that, our planning funds at the agency to do a TSP update. You guys probably did a transportation growth management proposal. Yep. And that's really competitive. So anyway, I want you to know I'm going to take that back on my side. So that's some of my homework. There's a couple different funding pots, so I'll do that. But I did want to say that there is another opportunity sooner to do a Safe Routes to School project identification plan. It's called a PIP because we have to have a ton of acronyms where I work.
We do, it's government.
And it is way less competitive, let me put it that way. And I think, I'll find out for you, and send it to Debbie, but I think that next fall will be the next round of those. And what it is, and I don't want to kill you with plans. It's frustrating for a community to keep being like, we keep engaging in these plans and then we're not seeing the stuff on the ground. But I will say, and try and reassure folks here, that it is from those plans that the funds to which the funds get allocated. So it can be tedious, but once you've done that work, you can really go after the grants, right? So the project identification plan is a much shorter, it's specific to the areas right around your schools. It would be amazing to engage. It tends to be like they engage the school consultants come on board to help just with this. And it's just a plan for right around the schools. And I can help. And then, you talk to the folks at the schools, it's all the stuff you know, right?
Yeah.
But it actually puts a drawing on a piece of paper and then you apply for the grant and you have it.
So we do have areas of concern that we have been talking with Safe Routes to School. So we do have a
Right.
a list of 5 schools that we would want to
And
talk
one of the
to.
priorities is Kennedy.
Yeah,
and
so
we-
the area that we were talking about right by the roundabout.
Right.
That's probably
looked
like
at that.
number 1 right
Yeah.
now.
The grant, Safe Routes to School grant we applied for pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID?
Well, it was,
Not
Long time ago.
not 2022's.
2021, we did.
We've done it, the same one twice.
was Kennedy,
Yeah.
so we have a lot of data.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you may have everything you need to do the Safe Routes grants. You may not need to do a plan, and so that's totally fine. But I guess then what I want to say is that the Safe Routes program, while it's really frustrating to go for grants and not get them, it is our largest pot of active transportation funding. And there was so much pent up demand when we first got this going that it was so competitive. And so you just have to keep, or I encourage you, you don't have to, I encourage you to keep submitting it, because what's going to happen is the most competitive ones will literally just be picked off the top and it's just going to move down
Okay.
the list.
Okay.
So to assure you, you're not alone in that. Corvallis has done, 4 applications, also, and not gotten the,
Yeah.
So it's very data driven. So if there aren't crashes in the area, I know that sounds terrible. And if the equity score is low, which I'm guessing here would be pretty high, but anyway, keep going for it because it will get to you.
Okay.
And so that might be, you might have enough. Know that you can do more than one, and know that I can always help look at it and stuff like that with the city. It's not actually writing intensive. They're not actually nearly as scary as like federal grants. Yeah, it's pretty user friendly. So just to encourage that, like don't get scared when we say grant. I know that scares a lot of people. Yeah. So feel free to shoot any questions my way about Safe Routes grants. I kind of am a liaison. There's a program manager at the state level, but for all my communities, I can filter and answer a lot of those questions. And if I can't, then I'll go to her and ask. We have someone new who just started at the state level. She's wonderful, but brand new. So I have a little bit of money. I have some bike ped money that can be used, but it has to be on the state system.
On the state
So, yep, so, and it's more flexible, but it has to be on the state system. And so that leads me into a project that I talked to a previous committee, you guys, at some point about. Someone reached out to me. It was Pat.
Fisher.
Thank you, Fisher, who used to work at ODOT. So she knew how to work the system,
Yeah.
which is great. Tammy does too. And that's very beneficial to have someone in your group, because a lot of funding comes through ODOT. That's just the reality of the DOT, right? So to have someone who kind of gets the structure of it is super helpful. So Pat got together with me and I came out and walked the Salem Parkway. So it's different than a lot of the stuff you guys have been talking about today. I know that that's like a longer distance rider, but I think that it could be families, I would guess, and commuters into Salem and things like that. And she had a whole signage plan. Someone was involved in that, Hirsch, yep. And we spent some time on it, and wayfinding signage for people on the bus is like, absolutely, it's a no-brainer. We should have it everywhere. We do it for people driving, we don't do it for people riding. And it's especially, her proposal was great in that it would like lead people into the neighborhoods. Here's where the school is, here, it's destination-oriented signage, so you know where to turn. And so I offered money to Keizer. I talked to Bill Lawyer a couple times. And so I just want to bring it up as it's still an opportunity that's on the table. I think it was one of those things that it felt there was a lot going on. And so it got a little lost in the shuffle. It does involve, and this is one of our challenges, and I hate to be the messenger, but we will ask the city to maintain the signs. So we could provide funding to construct and, or to make them, put them up. 20,000, I think, is about what we talked about, something like that. Got an estimate together with someone at the city. And, but then the agreement would be that the city of Keizer would maintain them, and that's where I think we got stuck, which is a common sticking point. They're like, why doesn't ODOT maintain the stuff on their own system? And that's a very fair question. And I'm here to say because we can't maintain all the stuff on our own system right now, not even striping. So anyway, so I wanted you guys I wanted to just throw it out as you guys think on it, and if it's not a priority, I understand. But if you wanted to pick that back up, I'd be happy to help.
What sort of maintenance would it be?
I don't think it
Cleaning
would be a
off the
lot.
tagging.
Clean on the tagging, yeah.
It's if a sign comes down. I think we still fix the path. Like, I think it might still be the path is ours. It's in our right of way.
Yeah.
But I think it's just if someone like decides to hack down a sign.
Or tag it.
Does that happen?
Well,
Yeah.
where the
I mean, I grew up on Mary Jane Avenue, so I knew it happened there, but a lot. But you should see that signpost.
Yeah.
And then the sign right at the start of the Parkway bike path is in a risky location. It's right there
Okay.
where people run over the curb all the time.
Go ahead, Hirsch.
The other thing that Pat and I found is jurisdictional. It's Salem, Keizer.
Yeah.
They're at the Parkway at Cherry, where we wanted signs, that's technically Salem.
Yeah.
Right.
So we couldn't maintain it as the city of Keizer.
So that it sounds, I'm hearing what the stickiness is. But I do think it's worth bringing up to Bill Lawyer, so as
Yeah.
I put these together, I'm gonna ask him
Yeah, and
about
I
that.
did talk to Salem at one point, because you're right, that was tricky, that
Yeah.
it's like that route goes from, but it's onto the city's bikeway, neighborhood greenway, whatever we call it, Salem's first neighborhood greenway, right, at Cherry, and that's, so they're gonna be building that out, so it just seems like they should just pick up the maintenance, the signs in your right of way are yours, and the signs in their right of way, or not your right of way, sorry. Signs on the path are yours, signs on the bikeway are theirs. Is that, am I
New
oversimplifying?
Public Works Director may have a different point of view now.
Yeah, Yeah, and I think that's what we ran up against, and I think all it really needed, and maybe I could have, or I could revive it too, was if there was interest, again, it could be a quick call with me and the Public Works folks for both Salem and Keizer. I know that Bill Lawyer, who's your lawyer, right?
No, he's our Public Works.
Public Works. Bill Lawyer had some concerns. He had a legal question that I think we were able to answer and alleviate.
Okay.
So that was a conversation. And then it kind of died. So,
Okay, hold on, I didn't have your microphone on. Counselor Husband is here via.
Oh, I'm
He has a
sorry.
question. Okay, go ahead, Counselor.
Thanks, Debbie. Sorry for screaming in your ear there. How exactly do we recapture this opportunity and restart this dialogue, then, assuming that we have had some incremental progress and answers to a few of these questions?
I think that's all I need, was you to say you're interested. Which you just did, and so
I'm interested.
Yeah, thank you. That's great. Sorry, I'm looking right at your chair and it feels awkward. So I think that was it. I kind of wanted to throw it out and see if you were still interested, because then I can kind of restart it.
The other question that came up was, does the grant require a match?
No, not for my funding. Great
Good.
question. This one does not.
Because that's always been a stickler,
Yes.
especially with Keizer, with our budget, is okay, how do we come up with the match?
I get it. I know. It's really tricky. That's why this funding is so magical.
I know our chamber would be, not that they would throw money or anything, but be supportive of some of the signage. Kennedy Elementary, which is on the farther end, would
Yep.
appreciate in our parks, as well as Keizer Station.
Yeah. And what I think would happen is if we get a plan to move forward, I'd come back to you guys, or I'd want your feedback at some point on the destinations, like you just started to do, on like what are the key, what are we pointing people to? You don't do everything. It's very strict. It's so like everything. We have to follow.
I have the notes that Pat and I did
I know,
somewhere.
yeah. And I vetted those with our engineers. I actually took, you guys put together these graphics, like we kind of had a lot together.
Yeah.
And I took it, and there were gonna need to be some changes. You can only have a certain number of, but what I really would like to do is make sure you're consistent with, I think it makes a lot of sense to work on consistency in how we do our signs, which has a lot of rules, but there's a little wiggle room that I've found since we first met. And make sure it's consistent with Salem, because I think there's just all this back and forth, right? So the order in which you put the destinations, how many you put on the sign, how you put arrows on the sign, what color the sign, there's just like all this stuff. But we can figure all that out.
Okay. Michael, you had something to follow up?
Yeah, so you had mentioned, the Parkway. Now we have the intersecting streets that I think, at least at the intersection, from what Mike said last time about Cherry, is within ODOT jurisdiction. Can we get something done with the bike lanes to maybe paint or some type of protection? Because I think it's very common that people doing their right-hand turns onto the Parkway will cut corners, sometimes even stop in the lane before they can turn. So we don't own that last bit on Cherry. It's Salem. I don't know about the Hyacinth and Verda.
Yeah, that is, we've been looking at that. I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because what we're hoping, right, is when you have what a bikeway is, or a neighborhood greenway, whatever they're calling it at this point, there's different words, is a lower stress, more comfortable route for people to use. And what we hope is that you get, families, kids, all the users, right? And then if they get to Cherry Ave and it's super scary, then that kind of defeats the whole purpose. And so we have been looking at, there's some projects that are slated potentially for that intersection, and in all of them, I've been there talking with when we scope these projects, talking with the engineers about that corner and making improvements for that whole east leg, because we're trying to facilitate this comfortable design, right? So we're looking at things like tightening up the turning radius at that corner so that the cars can't take it so fast, or maybe even having a protected corner, which is kind of a new to the US, not new other places, but design, where the path users are actually sitting behind concrete, you know?
Yeah.
What a concept. But it has to be reconciled with the turning movements of the trucks, and that is always the real trick. So I guess I shouldn't, I will tell you if that's funded. Anyway, we've been looking at it. And so the fact that you brought it up as a question is validating, so thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I always like to do armadillos, or we haven't done them yet, but you know.
Yeah, I've seen those. Yeah, you guys can do that. I can't, but you can.
David and then Hirsch, please.
My recall at the time we were doing the signage issue, one of the things that came up, I think we dropped it, was access to the bike path from Keizer. There aren't very many places.
Yeah.
You can do it down there at Kennedy, but this is things people with bicycles have rutted through the grass in somebody's yard to get to the bike path.
Right.
There are, outside of the Verda, is an access point.
There's
And
one.
Keizer Station is an access point.
Yeah.
I don't think there's another access point to the bike path.
There is.
There's one at Pleasant,
Pleasant,
Pleasant.
but not much. I mean, if you're
No.
at Kennedy
Really?
School.
I thought there were 4 or something. Verda,
Brooks, the end of
Boy,
Yeah, that's Verda.
And
then
that's
there's
the
one-
beginning. Keizer Station's
No, the
end.
first one is Pleasant View, and then the next one is Verda, and then there's another one at Northview Terrace, and then there's one down at Keizer Road, and then on up around to Keizer Station.
Those, on our half of it, on the city side, those are kids that made the paths.
Well, yeah, there's some.
I mean, they're not formal
Debbie, can I try to get on
paved
this?
paths that somebody with,
Counselor Hussman?
yeah.
I'm just wondering if that, I thought that was.
Yeah, Counselor Hussman, go ahead again.
Sorry to interrupt everybody. I can't help but notice too, but on the Salem Parkway path, there is the one, not quite a path, but definitely forged near the Kennedy Meadows Mobile Home Park, kind of in between Keizer Road and the next one south.
Right.
That's one that may have to be an actual point of access in the future, but something we can look into later, obviously.
Right, and that's a great, those goat paths, we used to call them, the new, sexy term in my world are called desire lines, and you can even on Google, right, you can see, they're amazing evidence of the desire to travel, as the crow flies, right, because that's human nature. And those are wonderful clues to include as projects for little path connections and things like that. So that's a great example. And I would, say that maybe if you put up a sign now that pointed that direction and said that, there's this stuff over here, and then someday you get that little path actually built, right? Anyway, I won't keep going on about it, but I've heard your interest. I think that sounds great, but I also want to go back to David's point and go back and revisit the concept and make sure it's also a worthwhile, the number of signs, because it will take some time and energy, and it will take an intergovernmental agreement. Anytime I give you money, or a local jurisdiction money, I have to do an agreement that says for $20,000, we're gonna give the city X, and they have agreed to do X, Y, and Z. And that agreement takes 6 months just to kind of rise up and stuff, but I do it. I can do it, right? I'll track that. So it won't get lost. Well, hopefully. But it's a pain, but then it's done.
Okay, go ahead.
FYI for you on the bikeway through Salem,
Yeah,
the Willamette Valley Scenic Bikeway, that's the route.
right.
Now, it's being proposed to change,
Yeah.
not go through Salem,
That's fine.
and be coming through Independence that way.
Yeah.
And coming across the bike bridge, and then onto Winter Street, and then Maple, and then on north. So just an FYI.
Yeah.
It's another area that at the time we do the signage. We might want to partner with state parks
Yeah.
for signage on that. Now, Cycle Oregon is now the
Right,
group.
the
that's in charge-
facilitator of
Facilitator
the
of that.
bikeways.
Yeah.
Yes.
The scenic bikeways.
If that happens, I want to update our data, because we do have the bikeways in our data so that we can make the case.
Well, that's the proposal right now.
Yeah, I heard that was going on, so I'll be
Yeah,
interested to see how that
I
changes.
saw the map on the Zoom meeting this
Cool.
last week. so.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I know I'm gonna have to move along, but I was prompted to come to you guys, and then I had a million ideas. But I wanted to tell you that I'm also doing a study, because everyone's doing a study and wants your feedback, it turns out. I'm also doing a study, but it's Salem. And so I just wanted to let you know that I know that not, that this is Keizer, and that not everyone rides back and forth. But I was hoping to also send you, for whoever wanted to provide feedback, it'll be one of those maps where you can put like a spot on it and just say, yeah, I care about this spot. Yes, I've tried to walk or bike here. And so it's kind of that initial. So it's mostly 99E, which is the, Salem Parkway, and it comes into Salem, and then it becomes that, I had to write it down because I was like trying to remember, that Liberty commercial two-way thing, and then it becomes Front Street, and then it kind of becomes a two-way thing, and it's Trade and Ferry, and then it turns into, Pringle Parkway, and then Bellevue. That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's the scope of my project.
Okay.
And we are looking for low-hanging fruit, so it can't get too fancy. Low-hanging fruit, bicycle and pedestrian improvements to potentially attach on to either a maintenance or an ADA project. So the reality of our funding world right now at ODOT is we don't do big, sexy, awesome, change a whole roadway projects anymore. It's just our funding landscape. We do maintenance. And so I am constantly looking for ways to jump on the backs of maintenance projects to add other things that also help people biking and walking. So that is my strategy. So it's, there'll be a first open house coming up, online open house coming up in the next in March, I think, maybe April. And there'll be an in-person event as well. So I will just let you guys know through Debbie.
Yes, please.
About
give us
that. And so if you ride around Salem, I'd love you to know. I also deal with any ADA complaints on the state system. If anyone ever comes to you and says, I can't walk here, or I can't get my wheelchair here, I can't, I'm blind, or I'm, whatever, which they may or may not say that. But, if you can tell that that's ADA related, then please send them my way.
Okay.
I deal with those two, state system only. Otherwise, I send them back to you. I have other things written down, but I'll stop there. I did want to mention that roundabout I came through. I was actually really excited about it when I came here tonight, because roundabouts are incredibly safe. They're not all perfect, but they're, 96% reduction in fatalities. It's a big deal. I was super excited to see one here. But that it could maybe use some features to help improve it. And we do have new design guidance at ODOT. There's a lot more in there about roundabouts than there used to be. So I would just encourage maybe sending someone that way. But my quick look at it was that you could add those flashing pedestrian beacons. I don't think they were there. The pedestrian activated beacons is how we typically do the crossings at a 2-lane roundabout. This one's really big, so I could see people taking it a little faster, maybe, almost like a 2-lane roundabout. So maybe if you just added that on, you know what I mean? At those pedestrian crossings, they're called RRFBs, rectangular rapid flashing beacons. And then I really like the idea of raised crosswalks, but I heard you say that you worry about them being launching ramps. I hear you, but I think that they're amazing, and I am not able yet to do them on the state system, and I think they're incredibly effective for traffic calming. Speed cushions, there's all kinds of names for them. So anyway, those were the quick ideas I had.
Well, Jenna, you've been a plethora of knowledge, and I think that...
A lot, sorry.
I think
Try not to overwhelm.
No, I think you should at least probably put us on your calendar at least once a year. That would,
Yeah,
and
I'd love to.
actually, if it could be in the first quarter, that way, if there is anything that maybe we can work into the next fiscal year's budget and work around that,
Yeah.
we're really in the pocket. And I'm excited that you came here. You're the first person that has ever called traffic and bikeways and safety sexy, but we'll go there.
Well, we got to make our mark, right? I know. And then I'm
We'll go
realizing
there.
as I use that word that I'm like on TV, and then I'm like, ooh, should I have, I'm not always the
And the
most,
desires.
not the most conventional, but I feel like songs don't say explicit when they have that word in it. So I feel like that's my.
We'll field the call, we'll field all the phone calls.
Well,
But
definitely.
I do want to say, overall, real quick, but your biggest opportunity, you already know this, is Safe Routes to School funding, and you already have a ton of people who care about it, and that's just so great. But to Hirsch's point, you do have to plan ahead for the match for that, unless it's on the state system, and then I'd want to talk to you about ODOT supporting the match, but most of what you're talking about is not,
Right.
which is actually a good thing, because the state roads, we can do the least in a lot of ways.
Right.
Budgeting ahead and thinking ahead to the match for that would be a really good reminder of someone on your committee to talk during budget cycle, because I think that's something that gets forgotten.
I might be an accountant for local government, understand that part. So
Yeah.
I've been guiding us that way for the last 2 years.
That's amazing.
And just trying
That's
to make
so
sure
good
that
to
we
have on
save,
this committee.
so.
Yeah, so it's a 20 to 40% match, so it's pretty significant.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're looking to try and drop that, just so you know, there's some advocacy work going on for dropping that match, since it's such a barrier for so many communities.
It
So,
really is.
yeah.
So many
Anyway, I'm going to follow up with you guys on some things.
I like
So I'll
it.
be in touch.
Okay. And we'll definitely I have notes to bring to Bill as well, too. So thank you
Yeah, and
so much.
encourage him to just reach out to me. I'll probably be in touch with him to talk about the signage, to revive that
Yeah.
again. So he'll
Yeah.
see my name again.
All right.
So, okay,
Well,
thanks
thank
you
you.
guys.
Thank you very much for coming.
Yeah.
I might stick around and keep.
Please do. Gets more in here. So the next thing on the list is the Brooks Alder crosswalk update, and I think I kind of missed that. I don't think there is anything unless you have something. Dang it. No? Not today? Okay, so nothing on number 5. Mainly, we kind of had that discussion during the interested in citizens. Next is the committee purpose. This is just kind of hanging on our agenda that we're waiting for the NTMP for that to be completed, because we're turning both the committee purpose and the neighborhood traffic management program together to legal in order to review and finalize for us. But as we're hearing, we thought it would be next month, but we're going to probably push out. So we're skipping number 6, and I'm going to turn things over to Tammy for the update to the neighborhood traffic management program and give an update of where we're at with that.
So I came here prepared with lots of questions and the whole thing to talk to Mike Griffin, and he's not here. So we're putting a pin in it till next month?
We're not putting a pin in it. I think we should email it to him.
Okay.
And then that way he can get back to us, and that'll help us over the next 30 days to get our answers so we can continue what we're doing.
Deal, okay.
Deal.
So update is we're sending questions to Public Works, and once we get those responses, we kind of only have a few comments amongst ourselves that we'll finalize, and then it should be ready to go in draft form to the committee.
Yeah, with all of our comments. All right, thank you for that update. The next one was Tammy again for SCAT's report.
I went to the website to see if there's anything to report on, and it pretty much just talked about the fact that this is. Your microphone on? I'm just not close enough.
You can pull a torch too. Yeah, just pull the whole fancy stuff. There you go.
Sorry about that. I went to the SCAT's website to see what there is to report on, and they're doing, this is the time of year that they're doing their updates.
Tip.
The tip?
That's what it's called.
Okay, the tip update.
Okay, maybe we should give the acronym.
Okay.
Hold on. Traffic Improvement Program.
The traffic improvement
Yeah,
program.
good. The proposed
Why don't you say what you know, and then
I got an email that said they're making amendments to the SCAT's 2021 through 2026 Transportation Improvement Program. And it's a little over my head. I read it, didn't understand it yet. So
The only one it talks about, there's the one project,
the Salem Mass
Yeah,
Transit?
that's
Okay, so-
South Salem Transit System. So there's nothing that applied to us in Keizer.
Yeah.
That's where I was going.
Yeah, there's 2 directly related to transit,
Okay,
which indirectly help us.
okay.
And there's no doubt about that, so.
So it still is positive. So that's our update for SCAT?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was
I
very
just got
clear.
this email yesterday, so I thought I'd make sure to bring it to this. Thank you for forwarding that, Debbie. Next area is the cities to set speed limit discussion. And just to catch everybody up, in January, I asked Brenda to go take her first project for us and actually reach out to Salem. She actually did really good and fast too, so I can't wait to give her more projects. But she cannot speak right now, so I'm actually going to read her email to out loud. And it says she got a hold of Kevin Hotman, one of the two traffic engineers for the city of Salem. They say that the new law just changes who can do the study for the speed limit changes, but the individual governments still have to submit the study to ODOT for approval. The process for Salem appears to be someone bringing their concerns to Kevin, who looks to see if the request is reasonable and has a chance for the state to improve. Then they do the traffic study. So as much as we thought that we were going to be able to do stuff here at the state or at the city level, it's sounding more like we're handing off our concerns again. So if there are areas that we want to have speeding lowered, I do think that maybe we need to just start another spreadsheet and keep a track of that in order to hand off to Bill so that maybe he can bring those to attention. Any comments on this agenda item? Michael, go ahead.
Just one thing that I've heard is in Salem, they're looking at it at a neighborhood level. So it's not just saying, oh, this street we want to drop to X speed limit, but rather this neighborhood, we would like to see the residential streets within this neighborhood become whatever.
Such and such, yeah. Okay, Brenda?
I'll try to talk. It's still regulated by the state rules. So they're not really going to be able to change. If the road rule is a certain speed limit, that's still the road rule. But like we were talking about out at Windsor Island, where we wanted to make it speed up a little farther away, that's where the study would come in. The speed limits are still going to be the speed limits.
Okay. Church. I'm sorry?
Portland did it. They went against the state rule and did a 20 is plenty campaign. So, just so you know, it's happened. But yes.
I just don't know if we have the resources like Portland does to tell them this is what we're going to do. All right, anything, other conversation on this topic? Okay, next area is our committee member input and neighborhood association report. Rick, do you have anything to add to the good of the order?
I was just thinking about whether I wanted to make a comment about what we were just talking about or not. I guess I won't. What I'm going to say, though, is that along with Hirsch, I'd volunteer to follow that safety, what do they call it? Safety action plan.
Wait.
That Mike Jaffe was talking about.
Really?
I mean, that's right up the alley of what I used to do, that kind of stuff.
Then you're my person then.
And he said it wasn't a TSP update, and I guess technically it isn't, but boy, it sure feels like it's the same.
I know, but
it's the same kind of process.
Do you need a copy of the TSP? Tell me, send me an email of anything that you may need. I'll give you all my lists, all 3 of the lists that I have going right now, and at least you'll have a start to bring with you and have good data and anything that I can help mold what our top 5 are, and the committee as well too.
Right.
Let's get that together. I mean, we don't have much time because they said the meeting is in March, and we're gonna not have our meeting here before then. So this is gonna really have to be kind of over email, okay? But anything that I can do to help gather as much data for you to bring to there, I'm for it.
Okay. And I guess maybe I will go ahead and make the comment I was going to make about the speed zoning kind of stuff. I did that for 11 years early in my career.
Yeah.
I think the way it's set up is a good way. As Sergeant Lede said, a lot of the stuff that they do is data-based, and that speed zoning needs to be data-based also. And I think having the final decisions made at a state level takes it out of the local political realm more.
Yeah.
And so I think it's okay the way it's set up.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, well, I definitely look forward to, we're gonna, that's not SCATS, that's Safe Routes to School. So,
Say,
On the agenda, do you want a report on it each month then, or?
yeah, because if I just have to skip over it, I'm okay with that. But if he does
Okay.
have anything to report that is that specific of that project,
Okay.
please. Okay, thanks. Michael, are you done first? Thank you, Rick. Michael.
I just have a question on that safety action plan thing. Are we going to have a committee response or?
For
list-
Mike, to Mike?
Well, as part of the open house, or are we gonna just like, as
Well,
the TS?
I think this is kind of, because they said it's a 3-week opening, right? So
Right.
I think Rick will get involved. I think that he'll be able to have our data come back to us and tell us what we can do, and hopefully he can hit them back up before the end, by that April 3rd date, because we'll have met.
I just wanna know, is it gonna be an official
No,
Keizer?
it can't be. You need to, because you would have to go to council if you were going to have, say, anything officially as part of, as the committee. So you'd have to do it just as individuals.
Okay.
And see, I want to do input on, I ride into Salem and there's issues there, not just Keizer.
Right,
True.
for sure, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have anything.
Okay,
Just
nothing
question.
else for them? Okay, thank you. Tammy, do you have anything for the good?
No, and I'll let her speak to our neighborhood association because he started to already.
All right, all right. David, did you have anything for the good?
yeah, just one thing to remind people, most of us on the board, I think, realize it. The city's code enforcement, I'm not saying they're responsible, we're responsible for the sidewalks, the streets, curbs, dirt in the street. And one of the things you can do as a homeowner, citizen, a walker, bicyclist, is file a complaint. For example, I filed a complaint against the school district because they use a bus turnaround at Kennedy, which dumps tons of gravel out into the street, which makes biking anywhere near the bus turnaround dangerous. And then across the street, they have gravel driveways with no sidewalks, and they go in and out, and the bike lane becomes covered with gravel. In that case, I asked them to sweep it, and they did. Or I think they came out and wondered why I was taking pictures. People are responsible to keep the shrubs cut back off the sidewalks. Something earlier today, somebody mentioned why the sidewalks need an ADA accessible. We have places in Keizer, you cannot use a walker on the sidewalk. You can't use a wheelchair on the sidewalk because people have let their shrubs grow out 18, 20 inches into the sidewalk. They've let leaves pile up 6 inches deep. Anybody, and I'm one of the anybodies, can walk around Keizer and take photos, get the address, and go down to the planning department, code enforcement, is that Ben? I think, somebody.
Ben.
Go to planning and file a complaint. And I don't have any problem signing my name on stuff, I don't know, some people might. But then he will write a letter to the owner of the property and request it be fixed. I think, I went back and checked about a year later after I think somebody got me going on it, walked around Lock Haven and about a block south, all on each block, and filed 20-some complaints, which upset the planning commission because they didn't like it all at once. And most of those got fixed. And the key one on that is you don't get to have a broken sidewalk in front of your house. And another one was the electric company does not get to put in some box in the ground and have a whole sidewalk drop down 4 inches, which is what happened right behind Kennedy. And the whole sidewalk just dropped. If you're walking along and not looking, it's a 6-inch drop. Okay, those things get fixed if somebody beside me goes and complains about it. So anybody can do that.
And you can do it online.
Yeah, I just,
You don't have to go, well, I always take pictures, so I guess you can send them in
Yeah.
online too.
yeah, Ben last night said he prefer online.
Well, yeah, because I got excited, that's why.
Thank you, David. Hirsch, could I get your update, please?
Okay, I will be attending the ODOT Traffic Safety Seminar March 13th, 14th. That's the bike ped program. it's going to be over at Grand Round, I guess. I don't know how the deal, that's Heidi Banlove group. I'll be attending that. Bike Skills, June 10th, here. We'll do a Bike Skills.
June 10th?
June
Okay.
10th, Bike Skills event with the Keizer Police, and we'll try to see if we can find some other people to help. Last time we had the hub was here, and we have a brand new Safe Routes to School coordinator for Salem Keizer. Mike kind of indicated that she would be here. Keizer United will have helmets.
Yes.
And that'll be then. On helmets, I went to City Council and got the go-ahead to continue to ask our community for monies to continue the helmet program. City Council at that moment, Councilor Kohler did $100, and by
He
the time.
threw money at you.
Yeah, he
Make sure
threw
you say,
money
he
at-
threw money at you.
Yeah, he threw money at us. So we walked away, and Tim Wood, the finance director, we had $300 right off. So we want to be able to have enough helmets for our Safe Routes to School program, and then the Bike Skills Fair. I did send an email to the Salem Refugee Center because they did a bike skills thing last year asking if they wanted to do another one. And they said yes, but we don't have a date or anything just yet. Cystic Fibrosis wants to do a bike ride, and so I'll be working with them, but it'll be starting up at Shampooey at the winery. So it's a little different thing. The other thing, neighborhood association. The Northwest Keizer Neighborhood Association, we had the meeting with the planning, Shane Whitman and Ben Crosby about how planning works, how complaints are generated, some of the work that Ben has been doing with the homeless situation in Keizer. Just amazing what they do, real positive and such, in the how to do complaints and the fact we only have one and we are complaint driven. The other issue we talked about is Windsor Island Road. The mess that the construction of the storage facility has caused, and the report that Marlene Parsons brought to this committee last month about the higher speed, the greater traffic, brush. So I thought Mike was going to be here to whatever, but we, again, like the other neighborhood associations, we want to keep that one on there, especially once the construction is done. That may improve, well, it'll give us a better picture, but traffic is clearly increased at that north of Lock Haven with the movement of the crime lab being there. There's more traffic coming in and out of the old sewer plant. And then with several businesses back down there, the driving range and the wooden house or the log house and that stuff, there's just more traffic. And we'll have to kind of see what kind of impact that the storage facility also poses. But there was, again, suggestion of the flashing light, especially down by the entry into the sewer plant. So we want to keep that.
First corner.
Yeah, just because, again, I rode Windsor Island on the bike today, and as you turn off to Chemawa onto Windsor Island, the first speed sign you see is 30 miles an hour. And then you go 2 blocks and it turns into 35, and then it turns just on the other side of Lock Haven to 45.
Yeah.
Very confusing. I was able to meet all those speeds on my e-bike.
35 on your bike. I'm gonna be picking you up.
Yeah. So that's all I really have. I am going to be, Mary Ann and I are starting pickup bike rides starting at Keizer Rapids Park the first Thursday in April at 6:30. It's open to anybody. We're just going to do short fun rides, more social rides.
The first.
The first Thursday of
Thursday.
every month through September.
April through September.
And starting at Keizer Rapids Park, because Keizer Rapids Park has a bike repair stand and their bathrooms there. Good place to start.
That is a great place to start. Brenda, did you want to give any updates? Not this time? Do you have anything? You don't have anything to, okay. So I'll wrap this up for me, and I was actually with Hirsch at the council meeting, and giving he gave his update, and I actually gave the overview for 2022 and what all the good work of this committee has done, and just that we're looking forward to really kind of having a hand in the budget and the items that we have on the list and where they fit in there, and if they do fit. And then also Hirsch giving just the update of our last meeting and monitoring the stuff going on there. Other than that, I think that wraps up that committee member input, and that staff reports is next, and Mike Griffin is not here. So I'll skip over to police liaison report from Sergeant Leday.
So I was trying to find something of value that I could actually bring to the committee instead of there's nothing new. Most of the issues that we address within as far as doing traffic studies and things like that. But I started breaking down our crashes a little bit further down to where I'm keeping them into an Excel spreadsheet. So all of our reportable crashes, every single one of them gets funneled through me for approval. So my eyes see every single crash that we have that's at least in that reportable area. So for February so far, we've had 8 reportable crashes. Within those crashes, 5 of the 8 direct causes have been distracted driving. Now, when we say distracted driving, that doesn't necessarily mean they're on their cell phone every single time. That could be playing with the radio, looking down, having the screaming kid in the back seat, and trying to put your attention towards them instead of what's in front of you. Of those crashes, we're still breaking them down a little bit further. Of the 8 crashes, 3 of them occurred in intersections. And when we get into intersections, I like to dive a little bit deeper into it as far as what's the bigger picture. We did have one, which was yesterday, that somebody just plainly ran a red light and we had a T-bone crash. Don't have a lot of those over the months. One of them was actually kind of a crazier situation to where we actually had somebody that went into the center left turn lane to pass a vehicle that was in the left lane, and the vehicle tried to make a left turn in an intersection during that pass. So we could call it careless driving, but it still really doesn't pull out the scenario. We have 2 vehicles that were offenders in that scenario itself. So again, that's not something that engineering-wise or anything else that we can solve or fix, but it gives us just a better idea as far as what the causation is on some of these crashes. And then, of course, we do have the typical ones when this is our normal, what we see that happens in an intersection is we have the yield on that left turn in front of traffic coming in front of you, and they try to take that chance and make that quick left turn, and they're not making it. So of the 8 so far, so I'm hoping by keeping these things, it gives something a little bit more valuable for you guys to see what kind of crashes we're having. Instead of me just saying, yeah, we have these crashes in these intersections, but really don't worry about it because people aren't running red lights. So at least you're hearing the causation of it
Yeah,
itself.
I really like that, a high-level overview of just your monthly numbers. That would be great, just of the crash parts for safety.
Okay.
Thank you.
You bet.
All right, Councilman Hussman, are you there?
Yep, still here.
Okay, it's your turn to give us a report if you have anything.
Yeah, thank you so much. The biggest thing I'd like to stress in my report is the council is getting into the process of long-range strategic planning for the city of Keizer. We have a meeting on Monday, February 27th, to that effect, where we'll be sitting down with a consultant and going through some of the how as far as what we want to accomplish within strategic planning. This may be a little more personal than a full council report, but I would expect transportation, bike, pedestrian, and safety initiatives to play a fairly significant part in what it is that the strategic plan looks like. I think everyone on the committee has an understanding of where I'm at and that I want to see the city continue to codify more language around multi-mobility within its long-range planning, and I think that it's a sensible it's a sensible goal for that to be part of the strategic planning process. Now, as I say that, of course, it's not just about the council. There will absolutely be opportunities for public input into what the long-range vision of Keizer should be, and I'm personally excited for that opportunity. I think that there are a number of potential outcomes, ways the city could go, and I think there are some people out there with some really creative ideas. All this to say that when the time comes and everybody will know more, please do sign up for whatever commenting options are available. I think that your voices, everyone's voices need to be heard. I mean, this is a big deal as far as shaping the direction of the city. But especially for this committee, I think there needs to be a continued emphasis on where Keizer is going with respect to transportation and movement throughout the city. And it's an opportunity that I very much am looking forward to participating in. Outside of that, had a couple meetings with city officials, met with Chief Teague, met with Mr. Witham in the planning department. Didn't hear all the good stuff that came through in the Northwest Keizer Neighborhood Association meeting last night. Hirsch, thank you for covering off on all that. But it's all good color and definitely materials that I'm thinking through to shape really the future of transportation in Keizer, what it is that the city needs and how we go about it. So I'm grateful for everybody helping me get to this point, and I look forward to providing more continual and hopefully slightly more substantive updates on council activity.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Councilman. What I wanted to ask is when you do hear about the commenting opportunity, please let us know. We definitely have comments and can help.
No, absolutely.
If you'd like my spreadsheets now, I can get those for you now.
So we'll make that happen.
I don't think you heard me, Councilman. I said if you would like my 3 spreadsheets now, I can give those to you now.
Look, I'll take it in any form. My email's public record. It's out there. So you can give me comments in advance and I'll relay it on. But the biggest thing I think is that is going to be an extensive and iterative process. It's going to take multiple months. We're probably going to get in very nitty-gritty technical elements of governance. I know that's very exciting to the individuals in the room right now. Just a whole lot to come. And frankly, public feedback on all of it, not just the transportation issues, will be necessary. Having that as one of the paramount elements of strategic planning, though, I think would serve the city very well. And that's the direction that I intend to take.
All right, thank you. Rick, you had a comment?
The councilman's discussion there has triggered some thoughts in my mind, and it relates to a lot of the stuff we've been doing here. You know, way back in '82 when we were incorporated, the idea of the city was very minimal government. You know, volunteer is one of our mottos, and keeping the tax rate really low and all that sort of thing. But yet, so much of the stuff that we hear, it seems like we don't have budget for even some of the more minor things. It seems like this long-range strategic thinking is where that whole idea could kind of be revisited.
Now,
Getting right back to the foundation of what the city was about.
Yeah, we're in an exciting time right now. I do see a lot of collaboration happening, and that can only make our city stronger. So this committee, I do appreciate all of the help that I can't do this all myself. So having everyone here does get us into a part where we're heard. We're heard. So thank you, and move on to the next thing. Debbie, I want to start adding another item right before adjourn that's called other items or something like that, because that way I can make sure that Michael, you are reporting to council on March 6th and the Planning Commission on March 8th, and you're good to confirm for that? Okay, great. And again, just so the committee understands, it's not necessarily for you guys always to go, but you will get the email to see what is on their agenda, and do you see anything fit that we need to maybe either interject or want to give comment to, then you want to go to that meeting, or at least write a memo to that, to whatever you're talking about on that agenda, or go to it and just get a high-level update that you can bring back to the committee. Because that, again, is, I think, the two-way flow of us giving information and also hearing the information back. Other than that, we're adjourned.
Okay, do you think we're gonna learn that?
Did that work?
That a bike